She fed him every single morning for 3 months. A homeless man who never smiled, never said more than 2 words. But the day he vanished, everything she thought she knew was about to shatter. This is the story of Adana, a widow struggling to survive in the chaotic streets of Port Harcourt. Every day she woke up at dawn to sell food from a tiny roadside stall. And every day, a mysterious stranger appeared, silent, hungry, broken. She had no idea that feeding this man would lead to the most shocking revelation of her life. Because sometimes, the people we show mercy to are hiding secrets we could never imagine. In the noisy, dusty, and relentless streets of Port Harcourt, there lived a woman named Adana. She was 32 years old, but if you looked at her closely, you would think she was 45. Life had been cruel to her. It had beaten her down so many times that her face carried permanent lines of worry. Her eyes told stories of sleepless nights. Her hands were rough from years of hard work. Adana was a widow. Her husband, Obiora, had died 4 years ago. He was a bus driver. One evening, he went out for his usual route and never came back. There was an accident. A trailer lost control on the expressway and crushed his bus. 5 people died that day. Obiora was one of them. Since that day, Adana's world had collapsed. They had 2 children, a boy named Chima, who was 11 years old, and a girl named Amarachi, who was 8. After Obiora died, his family came and took everything. The small piece of land they were building on, the savings in the bank, even the television and the furniture. They said it belonged to the family, not to her. Adana was left with nothing, just her 2 children, a rented one-room apartment in a face-me-I-face-you compound, and a broken heart. She cried for weeks. But crying doesn't feed children. Tears don't pay school fees. So she wiped her face, tied her wrapper tight, and decided to fight. She started a small food business. She would wake up at 4 a.m. every single morning, go to the market, buy ingredients, come back home and start cooking. By 6 a.m., she would be on the roadside with her small table, selling rice, beans, yam, and stew. Her spot was near the park where buses and taxis loaded passengers. People rushing to work would stop and buy food. Okada riders, conductors, drivers, market women. That was her life. But the money was never enough. After paying rent, school fees, and buying food for her children, there was almost nothing left. Some nights she would go to bed with just garri and salt in her stomach. Some days she wore the same clothes for 2 weeks straight because buying new ones was not a priority. Survival was the only priority. Her son Chima had stopped going to school because she couldn't afford the fees anymore. He now hawked pure water in traffic to help his mother. Every time she saw him carrying that basin of pure water on his head under the hot sun, her heart broke into pieces. But what could she do? Life had dealt her a terrible hand. Her daughter Amarachi was still in primary school, but the teachers had sent her home 3 times already because of unpaid fees. Each time, Adana would beg, cry, and promise to pay, and somehow she would scrape the money together and take the child back to school. People in the compound pitied her. Some helped with food when they could. Others gossiped about her behind her back. One woman even said, "That Adana, she must have done something bad in her past life. See how God is punishing her." But Adana didn't care what people said. She woke up every day and fought because her children needed her and she would not let them suffer more than they already had. Adana's daily routine never changed. Wake up at 4 a.m., bathe with cold water because there was no money for firewood to heat it, wake the children, give them the little food available, prepare her pots and coolers, head to the market, buy rice, tomatoes, pepper, onions, and palm oil. Come back home, start cooking. By 5:30 a.m., everything would be ready. Then she would load her things into an old wheelbarrow she borrowed from a neighbor and push it all the way to her spot near the park. It was a 15-minute walk, but with the heavy load, it took almost 30 minutes. Her back ached, her legs hurt, but she didn't stop. She would set up her table, lay out her pots, arrange her plates and spoons, hang a small handwritten sign that read, "Adana's food, delicious and affordable." Then the customers would start coming. Some were regulars. They knew her food was good. Others were new people just passing by. Business was slow, but it was steady. On a good day, she could make 3,000 naira. On a bad day, maybe 1,500 naira profit. It wasn't much, but it kept them alive. Her children knew the struggle. Chima never asked for new clothes. Amarachi never complained about not having toys. They understood that their mother was doing her best. And that understanding broke Adana's heart even more. Children should not have to grow up so fast. One thing Adana never forgot was her faith. Even though life was hard, even though she had every reason to be bitter, she still believed in God. Every morning before she left the house, she would kneel down and pray. She would ask God to bless her food, to bring customers, to protect her children, to make a way where there seemed to be no way. And every night, no matter how tired she was, she would gather her children and pray again. Chima and Amarachi would close their eyes and say amen. They didn't understand everything their mother prayed for, but they knew she believed, and that belief gave them hope. But despite all her prayers, life remained hard. Bills kept piling up. The landlord was threatening to throw them out if she didn't pay rent soon. The school sent another letter saying Amarachi would be expelled if fees were not paid by the end of the month. And to make things worse, her old cooking pots were getting spoiled. One of them had a hole, and she had to patch it with aluminum foil just to keep using it. Some days, Adana would sit alone after the children had gone to sleep and ask herself, how long can I keep doing this? How long before I break completely? But every morning, she would wake up again, because giving up was not an option. It was a Wednesday morning. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. Adana had just finished setting up her table. The aroma of jollof rice and fried plantain filled the air. A few early customers had already bought food and left. She was wiping down her table when she noticed him, a man, standing about 10 meters away from her stall. He was tall, but extremely thin. His clothes were torn and filthy. His trousers had holes in them. His shirt was brown with dirt and sweat. His hair was long, rough and matted. His face was covered with an unkempt beard. And his feet were bare and covered in dust and small cuts. He stood there, completely still, just staring at the food. He didn't come closer. He didn't say anything. He just stood there, like a statue. Adana noticed him and felt a strange pull in her chest. She had seen many beggars before. Port Harcourt was full of them. But something about this man was different. He wasn't stretching out his hand. He wasn't calling for help. He wasn't even moving. He just stood there, watching. A bus conductor walked past the man and hissed, "Come out for road, madman." But the man didn't move. He didn't react. Adana kept watching him. His eyes, even from a distance, looked empty, like someone who had lost everything, like someone who had forgotten what hope felt like. She looked down at her pot of rice. Then she looked back at the man. Her heart told her to do something, but her mind reminded her that she barely had enough for herself and her children. Feeding a stranger meant losing money, and she couldn't afford to lose money. But then a voice inside her, quiet but firm, said, "If you were in his position, wouldn't you want someone to help you?" Adana sighed. She reached for a plate, filled it with a generous portion of jollof rice, added stew, 2 pieces of plantain, and even a small piece of chicken. She covered it with another plate and walked towards the man. As she got closer, she could see him more clearly. His eyes were red and tired. His lips were cracked. His hands trembled slightly. He looked like someone who hadn't eaten in days. "Oga," she called softly. The man turned his head slowly and looked at her. He didn't say anything. She stretched out the plate towards him. "Take, eat." He stared at the plate, then at her, then back at the plate. He didn't move. "It's okay," Adana said gently. "Take it. No one will trouble you." Slowly, very slowly, the man reached out and took the plate from her hands. His fingers were shaking. "Come and sit," Adana said, pointing to one of the empty plastic chairs near her table. The man followed her silently and sat down. He placed the plate on his lap and just stared at it for a moment, as if he couldn't believe it was real. Then he picked up the spoon and began to eat, slowly, carefully, like someone eating something sacred. Adana watched him for a few seconds, then turned back to her customers. An Okada man wanted to buy rice. A woman wanted beans. Life continued. When the man finished eating, he stood up and placed the empty plate on the table. He looked at Adana with those tired, empty eyes and said just 2 words, "Thank you." His voice was deep, rough and quiet. It sounded like a voice that hadn't been used in a long time. Before Adana could respond, the man turned and walked away slowly, disappearing into the crowd of people moving along the road. Adana stood there for a moment, feeling something strange in her chest. She didn't know what it was. It wasn't pity. It wasn't pride. It was just the quiet feeling that she had done something right. The next morning, the man came again. Same time, same spot. Standing 10 meters away, not begging, not talking, just standing there staring at the food. Adana saw him and without thinking too much, she waved him over. He came slowly. She served him food. He ate in silence. When he finished, he said thank you and walked away. This became a routine. Every single morning, the man would appear. Adana would feed him. He would eat quietly, say thank you, and leave. 1 week passed, then 2 weeks, then 3 weeks. The man never missed a single day. Rain or shine, he was always there. Adana never asked his name. He never offered it. They existed in a silent agreement. She gave, he received. That was all. Another man said, "Dat man, him brain don correct. I dey see am for street, just dey waka anyhow. You dey risk yourself." Even her son Chima asked one evening, "Mama, who is that man you dey give food every morning? Why him no dey pay?" Adana looked at her son and said simply, "Because he has no money. And when someone is hungry, you don't ask them to pay before you help." Chima didn't understand, but he kept quiet. One afternoon, an old man who sold newspapers near Adana's spot called her over. "My daughter, I want to tell you something." Adana walked over. "Yes, Papa." The old man looked around as if checking that no one else was listening. "Dat man wey you dey feed every morning, you know am?" "No, Papa, I just dey help him." The old man shook his head slowly. "Dat man, him matter no be small." Adana frowned. "Wetin you mean?" "I don dey see am for dis area for almost 6 months now. Before you even start to dey feed am, him just dey appear from nowhere, stay small, then disappear again. Nobody know where him dey stay. Nobody know him name. Some people say na ghost, others say na prophet wey dey test people." Adana felt a chill run down her spine. "Papa, you think say na spirit?" The old man shrugged. "I no know, my daughter, but one thing I know be say, that man no be normal person. Just dey careful." That night, Adana couldn't sleep. She lay on her thin mat, staring at the ceiling. The old man's words kept replaying in her head. That man no be normal person. Was she feeding a ghost? A spirit? A madman? But he didn't behave like a mad person. Mad people talk to themselves. They shouted, they wandered around. This man was different. He was quiet. Too quiet. Adana turned on her side and looked at her children sleeping peacefully beside her. Whatever that man was, she thought, he was still hungry. And as long as he kept coming, she would keep feeding him. Because that was the right thing to do. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The man kept coming. Adana kept feeding him. It had been almost 3 months now, and the routine never changed. But something strange started happening. Adana's business began to grow. She didn't know how or why, but more customers were coming. People she had never seen before started buying food from her. One woman bought 10 plates of rice to take to her office. A man bought food every single day for 2 weeks straight. Another customer recommended her to his friends, and they all came. Her sales increased. On days when she used to make 3,000 naira, she was now making 5,000 naira. On good days, she made 7,000 naira. She couldn't explain it, but the money was coming. For the first time in years, she was able to pay her rent on time. She bought new pots to replace the old, spoilt ones. She paid Amarachi's school fees in full, and the teacher stopped sending her home. She even bought Chima new clothes and enrolled him back in school. One evening, as she counted her money after closing, she whispered, "God, I don't know what you're doing, but thank you." Her neighbor Mama Ngozi noticed the change too. "Adana, your business dey blow. Wetin you do?" Adana smiled. "I no do anything. Na God." Mama Ngozi laughed. "God and correct marketing, abi? Your food don dey sweet pass before." But Adana knew it wasn't just the food. Something else was happening. Something she couldn't explain. One morning, as she was serving the silent man his food, she decided to ask him a question. "Oga, wetin be your name?" The man paused. He looked at her for a long time without saying anything. Then, in his deep, quiet voice, he said, "You can call me Obi." "Obi," Adana repeated. "Where you dey stay?" He looked away. "Nowhere." "You no get family?" He didn't answer. He just continued eating. Adana didn't push further, but at least now she had a name. Obi. Another month passed. Obi never missed a single day. Adana never stopped feeding him. Her business continued to grow. She was now one of the most popular food sellers in the area. People came from different parts of Port Harcourt just to buy her food. She started saving money. Real money. For the first time in 4 years, she had something in the bank. Not much, but it was something. She even bought a small generator so she could keep her food fresh. But one Tuesday morning, something different happened. Adana arrived at her usual spot and set up her table as always. But Obi didn't come. She waited. 7 a.m. passed. 8 a.m. passed. Still no sign of him. She kept looking at the spot where he usually stood, but he wasn't there. Maybe he's sick, she thought. Maybe he will come later. But by noon, Obi still hadn't shown up. Adana felt a tightness in her chest. She tried to focus on her customers, but her mind kept wondering, where was he? The next morning, she woke up earlier than usual, hoping to see him. But again, he didn't come. By the third day, Adana was genuinely worried. She closed her store early and walked around the area, asking people if they had seen him. "Excuse me, you see one tall man, thin, dirty clothes, him dey come this side every morning." Most people shook their heads. Some didn't even know who she was talking about. She walked to the park. She checked under the bridge where homeless people sometimes stayed. She asked the newspaper seller. Nobody had seen Obi. That night, Adana couldn't eat. She sat outside her room staring into the darkness. Chima came and sat beside her. "Mama, you dey think about that man?" She nodded. "Maybe him don't travel," Chima said. "Maybe," Adana whispered. But something inside her didn't believe that. 1 week passed. Still no sign of Obi. Adana's heart grew heavier each day. She kept his plate of food aside every morning, hoping he would appear. But he never did. She asked the old newspaper seller again. "Papa, you sure say you never see that man? The one I dey feed?" The old man shook his head. "My daughter, I never see am. E be like say him don disappear." Adana felt tears prick her eyes. "But where him go? Him no get anywhere to stay. Wetin if something happen to am?" The old man placed a hand on her shoulder. "My daughter, some people just dey appear and disappear. Na their way. Maybe him mission for your life don't finish." "Mission?" Adana repeated, confused. The old man smiled mysteriously. "Yes, mission. You go understand soon." Adana didn't understand what he meant, but she went back to her store with a heavy heart. 2 more days passed. On the 10th day of Obi's absence, something happened that changed everything. It was around 11 a.m. Adana was serving a customer when a clean, shiny black SUV pulled up near her store. The kind of car that politicians and rich people drove. Everyone stopped and stared. The back door opened and a man in a black suit stepped out. He was tall, well-dressed, and looked very serious. He walked straight towards Adana. Her heart started beating fast. Was she in trouble? Had she done something wrong? The man stopped in front of her table and said, "Good morning. Are you Adana?" She swallowed hard. "Yes, I be Adana. Wetin happen? I do something wrong?" The man smiled slightly. "No, madam, you didn't do anything wrong. I came here to find you on behalf of someone." "Who?" "Someone you've been helping for the past 3 months." Adana's eyes widened. "Obi?" The man nodded. "Yes, but that is not his real name." Her hand started shaking. "Where is he? Is he okay?" "He's fine," the man said calmly. "But he asked me to bring you somewhere. He wants to see you." "See me? Why?" "He will explain everything. Please, come with me." Adana looked around. Her customers were watching. The other food sellers were watching. Even the Okada riders had stopped to see what was going on. She looked back at the man. "But my food, my things." "Don't worry," the man said. "I'll leave someone here to watch everything. You'll come back soon." Adana hesitated, but something in her heart told her to go. She turned to the woman selling fruits nearby. "Mama Blessing, abeg, help me watch my things. I dey come." The woman nodded, her eyes wide with curiosity. Adana wiped her hands on her apron, took a deep breath, and followed the man to the car. As she climbed into the SUV, her heart was pounding so hard she thought it would burst out of her chest. The inside of the car was cold. The seats were soft leather. It smelled expensive. She had never been inside a car like this in her entire life. The driver started the engine and they drove off. Adana looked out the window, watching her store disappear behind her. She had no idea where they were going. She had no idea what was about to happen. But something deep inside her whispered that her life was about to change forever. The drive was long. They passed through different parts of Port Harcourt, from the busy, dirty streets of the park area to cleaner roads with tall buildings and big houses. Adana sat quietly in the back seat, her hands gripping the edge of her wrapper tightly. The man in the suit sat beside her, calm and silent. She wanted to ask him questions, but her mouth felt dry. Her mind was spinning with 1,000 thoughts. Who was Obi really? Why did he disappear? Where were they taking her? Was this real, or was she dreaming? After about 40 minutes, the car turned into a quiet street lined with huge houses. Each house had tall gates, beautiful flowers, and security guards standing outside. Adena had never been to a place like this before. This was where rich people lived. The car stopped in front of the biggest house on the street. The gate was made of shiny black metal with gold designs. A security guard opened it immediately and they drove inside. Adena's mouth fell open. The compound was massive. There was a fountain in the middle, green grass everywhere, flowers of different colors, bright lights, and the house itself looked like something from a movie. It was painted white and cream, with big glass windows and tall pillars at the entrance. "Where is this place?" Adena whispered. The man smiled. "This is Mr. Obi's house." Her eyes widened. "Obi? The same Obi where they feed?" "Yes," the man said, "but you'll understand better when you see him." They parked and the man opened the door for her. Adena stepped out slowly, looking around like someone in a dream. Everything felt unreal. "Follow me," the man said. They walked towards the front door. Another man in a suit opened it for them and they stepped inside. Adena gasped. The inside of the house was even more beautiful. The floor was covered in shiny white tiles. There was a huge chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Big, soft couches. Paintings on the walls. A television so large it covered half the wall. Everything screamed wealth. "Please, sit down," the man said, pointing to one of the couches. Adena sat down carefully, as if the couch might break under her. Her heart was racing. Her palms were sweating. Then she heard footsteps. Someone was coming down the stairs. She looked up and froze. Walking down the stairs, wearing a clean white kaftan and brown slippers, was Obi. But he didn't look anything like the man she knew. His hair was neatly cut, his beard was trimmed, his face was clean and fresh, his eyes were clear and sharp. He looked healthy, strong, completely different. Adana stood up slowly, her legs shaking. "Obi." He reached the bottom of the stairs and smiled. "Yes, Adana, it's me." Tears filled her eyes. But I don't understand. Wetin dey happen? This place, you, everything." He walked closer and gestured for her to sit down. "Please, sit. Let me explain everything." She sat down, her hands trembling. Obi sat across from her, his face calm but serious. "My name is not just Obi," he began. "My full name is Obinan Wosu, and I'm not a homeless man." Adana stared at him, unable to speak. "I own 3 companies," he continued. "Real estate, oil and gas servicing, and logistics. I'm a businessman, a successful one." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Obina leaned forward. "4 years ago, I lost someone very important to me, my younger brother. He was my only sibling, my best friend. We built our businesses together, but one day, he got sick. Cancer. I spent millions trying to save him, but he still died." Adana's eyes softened with sympathy. "After he died," Obina continued, "I became bitter. I hated the world. I hated people. I felt like life had cheated me. I had all the money in the world, but I couldn't save the one person I loved most. So I started questioning everything. What is the point of wealth if it can't save the people you love? What is the point of success if you're alone?" He paused, his voice becoming quieter. "I became depressed. I isolated myself. I stopped going to the office. I stopped seeing friends. I just stayed in this house alone, thinking about death." Tears rolled down Adana's cheeks as she listened. "So I disguised myself," he continued. "I wore old, torn clothes. I stopped bathing. I let my hair grow wild. I walked the streets like a homeless man. For weeks, I went to different parts of Port Harcourt. I stood near churches. I stood near restaurants. I stood near markets. And you know what I found?" She shook her head, unable to speak. "I found cruelty," he said, his voice heavy. "People insulted me. They chased me away. Some threw stones at me. One man poured dirty water on me and told me to go and die somewhere else. Church members told me to leave because I was smelling. Restaurant owners called security to beat me." Adana covered her mouth with her hand, tears streaming down her face. "For 3 months," Obina said, "I wandered the streets, and every single day, I lost more faith in humanity. I started believing that kindness was dead, that people only cared about themselves, that the world was full of wicked hearts." He paused and looked directly into her eyes. "But then I met you." Adana wiped her tears with the edge of her wrapper, listening intently. "The first day you gave me food," Obina continued, "I didn't believe it. I thought maybe you wanted something from me. Maybe you were trying to preach to me or convert me or take a picture for social media. But you didn't. You just gave me food and went back to your work." He smiled softly. "The next day, I came back to test you again, and you fed me again. No questions, no judgment, no conditions. You just gave." Adana's lips trembled. "Day after day, week after week, You kept feeding me, he said. Even when your customers complained, even when people warned you, even when I saw you eating just gari and groundnuts because you had given away your food, you still fed me. He leaned back in his chair. I watched you, Adana. I watched you struggle. I watched you push that heavy wheelbarrow every morning. I watched you smile at customers even when you were tired. I watched you pray before you started selling. I watched you give your last piece of meat to a child who didn't have money to pay. I watched everything. Tears poured down Adana's face like a river. And I realized something, Obina said, his voice breaking slightly. Kindness is not dead. It's just rare. And you, Adana, you are one of the rare ones. She covered her face with both hands, sobbing quietly. I didn't disappear because I was tired of you, he said gently. I disappeared because it was time to stop pretending, time to come back to my real life. But I couldn't leave without doing something for you. He stood up and walked to a table nearby. He picked up a brown envelope and came back to her. Open it, he said, handing it to her. Adana's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the envelope. She opened it slowly and pulled out a document. At the top it read, Deed of Ownership. She looked up at him confused. You now own a restaurant, Obina said, smiling. A fully built, fully equipped restaurant in the heart of Port Harcourt. It's registered in your name. Everything inside is new. Industrial cookers, deep freezers, refrigerators, tables, chairs, plates, cutlery, everything. Adana's hand started shaking violently. Sir, I don't understand. There's more, he said. He pulled out another paper. This is a business account I opened in your name. There's 5 million naira inside. Use it to stock your restaurant, pay workers, and run the business. Her eyes widened in shock. She couldn't breathe. And this, he said, pulling out a third document, is a full scholarship for both your children, Chima and Amarachi, from now until they finish university. Everything is paid for. School fees, books, uniforms, everything. Adana collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Her whole body shook with the weight of the blessing she had just received. Obina knelt down beside her and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You gave me food when I had nothing. You gave me dignity when the world took it away. Now I'm giving you a future. She couldn't speak. She could only cry. After several minutes, Adana managed to calm down enough to wipe her face. Obina helped her stand up and led her back to the couch. I want to show you something, he said. He picked up a remote control and turned on the large television on the wall. A video started playing. It was footage from a small hidden camera. Adana saw herself on the screen. She was at her food stall. The video showed the very first day she gave Obi food. It showed her calling him over, serving him, and going back to her customers without asking for anything. Then the video jumped to other days, different mornings, each one showing her feeding him. The video even captured the day a customer insulted her for feeding a madman, and she calmly replied, He's still a human being. Adana watched with tears in her eyes. I recorded everything, Obina said. Not to use against you, but to document it. Because I knew that one day I would want to remember this. I would want to remember that in the middle of my darkness, there was light, and you were that light. He turned off the video and looked at her. Adana, you didn't just feed my body, you fed my soul. You reminded me why life is worth living. She shook her head, tears still flowing. Sir, I not do anything special. I just do what my heart tell me to do. And that, he said, is what makes you special. Most people ignore their hearts. You listen to yours. He stood up. Come, let me show you your restaurant. They left the house and got back into the SUV. This time, Adana felt like she was floating. Everything felt like a dream. A beautiful, impossible dream. They drove for about 20 minutes and stopped in front of a building on a busy street. The building was painted bright yellow and white. Above the entrance was a large, beautifully designed signboard that read, Adana's Place, where good food meets a good heart. Adana stepped out of the car and stood in front of the building, her mouth wide open. She couldn't believe what she was saying. This is yours, Obina said beside her. They walked inside. The restaurant was big, very big. There were 15 tables, each with 4 chairs. The walls were painted in warm colors. There were beautiful pictures of Nigerian food on the walls. The floor was tiled and spotless. There was a long counter at the front. Behind it was a glass display showing different types of food. At the back was the kitchen. And it was a dream. Huge industrial gas cookers, 3 deep freezers, 2 big refrigerators, Shelves stocked with pots, pans, plates, and cutlery. Everything was new. Everything was perfect. Adana walked around slowly, touching the tables, the chairs, the counter. Tears kept falling. Obina walked behind her. I've already hired 5 workers for you, 3 cooks and 2 waiters. They'll start next week. But you're the boss. You manage everything. I'll send someone to train you on how to run the business properly. She turned to him, her face soaked with tears. Sir, why? Why you do all this for me? He walked closer to her and said, because you did something for me that money can't buy. You gave me hope. You showed me that humanity is not completely lost. And for that, I will be forever grateful. Adana fell to her knees again, right there in the middle of her new restaurant. She clasped her hands together and looked up at the ceiling. God, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. She whispered over and over. Obina let her pray. He stood quietly, watching her release all the pain, all the struggle, all the years of suffering in that one moment of gratitude. After a few minutes, she stood up and wiped her face with her wrapper. She looked at Obina with red, swollen eyes. Sir, I no know how to talk. Words no fit come out. But I swear with everything wey I get, I go make you proud. I go use this blessing well. He smiled. I know you will. He reached into his pocket and brought out a set of keys. These are the keys to the restaurants. And this, he said, bringing out another key, is for a small bus parked outside. Use it to transport supplies, move around, or whatever you need. Adana collected the keys with shaking hands. She stared at them like they were made of gold. There's one more thing, Obina said. She looked up at him. I've paid 3 years' rent in advance for a proper apartment for you and your children. No more face me, I face you. You have your own space. 2 bedrooms, kitchen, bathroom, everything. My assistant will take you there tomorrow. Adana couldn't hold it anymore. She stepped forward and hugged him tightly, sobbing into his chest. Thank you, sir. God bless you. Thank you. Obina hugged her back gently. No, Adana. God bless you. You saved me. They stayed at the restaurant for another hour. Obina showed her everything. How the cookers worked, where the supplies would be stored, how to arrange the tables. He even showed her a small office at the back with her name on the door. Manager Adana. Inside the office was a desk, a chair, a computer, and a small shelf. Everything was clean and ready. You'll learn how to use the computer, Obina said. My team will teach you. You'll learn how to manage accounts, track inventory, and handle customers. This is not just a restaurant. This is your business, your future. Adana nodded, trying to take everything in. Her mind was still spinning. Before they left, Obina handed her another envelope. This is 500,000 naira in cash. Use it for your immediate needs. Buy clothes for your children, buy food, settle any debts, do whatever you need to do. She collected the envelope and held it against her chest. Sir, I go use am well, I promise. As they walked out of the restaurant, Obina turned to her and said, Adana, there's something I want you to promise me. Anything, sir. Never forget where you came from. Never forget what it feels like to struggle. And never stop being kind, even when you become successful, even when you're busy. Always remember to help those who have nothing, because that is what kept your heart pure. Adana nodded, tears streaming down her face again. I promise, sir. I swear. I will never forget. He smiled. Good. Now let's take you back so you can tell your children the good news. When they dropped Adana back at her food stall, the entire area was buzzing with curiosity. People had gathered around, whispering and speculating about what had happened. Mama Blessing, the fruit seller, rushed over. Adana, wetin happen? Where dem carry you go? You don't see trouble? Adana smiled through her tears. No, Mama, I never see trouble. I see blessing. She quickly packed up her things. She didn't explain anything to anyone. She just loaded her wheelbarrow and started pushing it home, her heart pounding with excitement. When she got to her compound, Chima and Amarachi were sitting outside, waiting for her. The moment they saw her face, they knew something had happened. Mama, wetin happen? Chima asked, standing up quickly. Adana dropped the wheelbarrow and pulled both her children into a tight hug. She held them so tight they could barely breathe. Mama, you're crushing us, Amarachi said, laughing. Adana released them and knelt down to their level. Tears were pouring down her face, but she was smiling. Children, our life has changed. God has answered our prayers. Chima and Amarachi looked at each other confused. Adana told them everything about Obi, about how he was actually a rich man, about the restaurant, about the scholarship, about the new apartment, about everything. The children listened with their mouths wide open. When she finished, Chima started crying. Amarachi started jumping up and down, screaming with joy. The neighbors heard the noise and came out. Mama Ngozi asked, Adana, wetin dey happen? Adana stood up, wiped her face and said loudly, God has blessed me. The man I was feeding every morning was not a beggar. He was a rich man testing people. And today he blessed me with a restaurant, scholarship for my children and a new home. The compound went silent. Then suddenly everyone started clapping and shouting. Some people were crying, others were dancing. It was like a party had suddenly broken out. That night, Adana couldn't sleep. She lay on her mat with her children beside her, staring at the ceiling. She kept touching the keys in her hand, making sure they were real, making sure she wasn't dreaming. Chima whispered in the darkness, Mama, you sure say all this not true? Adana smiled. Yes, my son, it's true, very true. Amarachi asked, Mama, does this mean I can go back to school without them sending me home? Yes, my daughter, you'll never be sent home again. Never. The three of them held each other and cried tears of joy until they finally fell asleep. The next morning, Obina's assistant, Mr. Chidi, came early to pick them up. He drove them to their new apartment. It was in a quiet estate not too far from the restaurant. The building was painted cream and brown. It looked clean and safe. They climbed the stairs to the second floor. Mr. Chidi opened the door and Adana stepped inside with her children. The apartment was beautiful. The sitting room had a couch, a center table and a small television. The floor was tiled. The walls were freshly painted. There were curtains on the windows. Down the corridor were 2 bedrooms, one for Adana and one for the children. Each room had a bed, a wardrobe and a standing fan. The kitchen had a gas cooker, a sink and cabinets. The bathroom had a toilet, a bathtub and a mirror. Amarachi ran from room to room, screaming with excitement. Mama, we have our own toilet, our own bathroom, our own kitchen. Chima stood in the middle of the sitting room, looking around with tears in his eyes. Mama, is this really ours? Adana nodded, unable to speak. She just nodded and cried. Mr. Chidi smiled.
Madam, everything here is yours. The rent is paid for 3 years. All the furniture is new. There's even food in the kitchen. Mr. Obina made sure everything was ready before you arrived. Adana walked to the kitchen and opened the cabinets. They were filled with rice, beans, gari, yam, oil, and other food items. The refrigerator was stocked with meat, fish, and vegetables. She turned to Mr. Chidi, tears streaming down her face. Tell your boss, tell him say I don't know how to thank him, but I go pray for him every single day of my life. Mr. Chidi nodded. He knows, madam. He knows. Before he left, he gave her his phone number. If you need anything, call me. Mr. Obina said I should check on you regularly to make sure everything is okay. After he left, Adana and her children spent the whole day exploring their new home. They opened every door, every cabinet, every drawer. They sat on the couch. They lay on the beds. They stood in the bathroom and just stared at the bathtub. That evening, Adana cooked a full meal for the first time in years. Jollof rice, fried chicken, and plantain. The three of them sat around the small dining table and ate together, laughing and crying at the same time. Chima said, Mama, this feels like a dream. Adana reached across the table and held his hand. It's not a dream, my son. It's a blessing, and we will never take it for granted. 1 week later, Adana officially opened her restaurant. Obina had sent a team to help her prepare. They trained her on how to manage the workers, how to keep records, how to handle money, and how to deal with customers. The grand opening was a big event. Obina didn't attend because he didn't want to make it about him, but he sent flowers and a card that read, To Adana, the woman with the kindest heart I've ever known. May your business flourish, and may you never stop being the light you are. People came from all over Port Harcourt. Some came because they had heard the story. Others came because the food was good.
By the end of the first day, the restaurant was full. Customers were sitting, eating, laughing, and enjoying themselves. Adana walked around in her clean uniform, supervising her workers, greeting customers, and making sure everything was perfect. She couldn't stop smiling. One customer, an elderly woman, called her over. "My daughter, I heard your story. I just want to tell you you are a blessing. Keep doing what you're doing." Adana smiled. "Thank you, ma. I will." Another customer, a young man, said, "Your food is amazing. I'll definitely be coming back." By the end of the first week, Adana's place had become one of the most talked about restaurants in Port Harcourt. People loved the food, but they also loved the story behind it. Adana made sure to keep one table in the restaurant reserved. She put a small sign on it that read, "Free meal table for those in need." Every day, anyone who came and said they were hungry could sit at that table and eat for free. No questions asked, no judgment, just like she used to do on the street. Her workers asked her, "Madam, are you sure? What if people take advantage?" Adana smiled. "Let them. I was once in their position. If I don't help them, who will?" Months passed. Adana's business grew bigger and bigger. She was making more money than she had ever imagined. She paid her workers well, she treated them with respect, and they loved working for her. Chima went back to school and was doing very well. His teacher said he was one of the brightest students in his class. Amarachi was also excelling. She even joined the school choir. One Saturday afternoon, Obina visited the restaurant. He came quietly, without bodyguards or assistants. He just walked in, sat at one of the tables and ordered food. Adana didn't see him at first. She was in the kitchen supervising the cooks, but one of the waiters came running. Madam, that man, the one will help you, him dey here." Adana dropped what she was doing and rushed out. When she saw Obina sitting there smiling, her eyes filled with tears, she walked over to his table. "Sir, you didn't tell me you were coming. I would have prepared something special." He laughed. "I don't need anything special. I just wanted to see how you're doing." She sat down across from him. "Sir, I'm doing well, very well. All thanks to you." He shook his head. "No, Adana, all thanks to your kind heart. I just opened the door. You're the one who walked through it and turned it into something beautiful." They talked for a long time. He asked about her children, her business, her plans for the future. She told him everything. Before he left, he said, "Adana, I have a proposal for you." She leaned forward. "What is it, sir?" "I want to partner with you to open more branches of this restaurant. Not just in Port Harcourt, but in other cities. I'll provide the capital, you'll manage everything, we'll split the profits. What do you think?" Adana's eyes widened. "Sir, are you serious?" He smiled. "Very serious. You've proven that you can run a successful business. Now let's make it bigger." Tears filled her eyes again. "Sir, I don't know what to say. Say yes." She laughed through her tears. Yes, sir, I'll do it." 2 years later, Adana had 5 branches of her restaurant. One in Port Harcourt, one in Lagos, one in Abuja, one in Enugu, and one in Calabar. Each branch was successful. Each branch had the same policy. One free meal table for those in need. Her story had been featured in newspapers and on television. People called her the kind-hearted restaurateur. Schools invited her to speak to students. Churches invited her to give testimonies. But despite all the success, Adana remained humble. She still woke up early every morning. She still checked on her workers. She still served customers with a smile. She never forgot where she came from. Chima was now in university, studying engineering. Amarachi was in secondary school, one of the top students. They were both proud of their mother. One evening, as Adana sat in her sitting room counting the day's earnings, Chima came and sat beside her. "Mama, do you ever think about how life used to be?" She smiled. "Every single day, my son." "Do you miss it?" She shook her head. "No, I don't miss the suffering, but I miss the simplicity. I miss the days when all I had to worry about was selling one pot of rice. Now I have 5 restaurants, 50 workers, and 100 things to think about." Chima laughed. "But you're happy, right?" She looked at him. "Yes, my son, I'm very happy. Not because of the money, not because of the success, but because I know that God is with me, and because I never stopped being the person He created me to be." 3 years after that fateful morning when she first fed Obi, Adana received an invitation to a special event. It was a charity gala organized by Obina's foundation. The theme was celebrating kindness. Adana attended with her children. She wore a beautiful dress that Obina had sent to her as a gift. When she entered the hall, people turned and stared. Some recognized her from the news. Others whispered and pointed. The event was grand. There were important people everywhere. Politicians, business owners, pastors, celebrities. Adana felt a little out of place, but she held her head high. Halfway through the event, Obina took the stage. He gave a speech about the importance of kindness, about how one act of mercy can change lives, about how humanity still has hope. Then he said something that made the entire hall go silent. Tonight, I want to honor someone very special, someone who saved my life without even knowing it, someone who reminded me that goodness still exists in this world. He looked directly at Adana. Adana, please come up here. Her heart started pounding. Chima and Amarachi pushed her gently. Go, Mama, go. She stood up slowly and walked to the stage. Her legs were shaking. When she reached Obina, he took her hand and turned to the audience. This woman, he said, fed me every single day for 3 months when I had nothing. She didn't know who I was. She didn't know I had money. She just saw a hungry man and decided to help. And because of her kindness, I found hope again. The audience erupted in applause. Some people stood up. Others wiped tears from their eyes. Obina turned to Adana and handed her a plaque. It read, "To Adana, a woman of true kindness. Thank you for reminding us what it means to be human." Adana collected the plaque with shaking hands. Tears streamed down her face. The audience gave her a standing ovation that lasted for 5 full minutes. When the noise finally died down, the host handed Adana a microphone and asked, "Madam Adana, what do you want to say?" She looked at the crowd. Then she looked at Obina. Then she looked at her children sitting in the audience. She took a deep breath and spoke. "I don't have big grammar," Adana began, her voice shaking. "I no go secondary school finish. I no sabi speak big English. But I know one thing. Kindness na the only thing wey we fit give when we no get anything." The audience listened silently. "When I was feeding that man," she continued, "I no know say na rich man. I just know say him hungry. And me sef, I dey struggle. Sometimes I no chop so that my pikin go chop. Sometimes I dey wear the same clothes for 1 week because I no get money to buy new one. But when I see person wey hungry pass me, I no fit just waka pass." She paused, wiping her eyes. "People ask me, 'Adana, why you dey waste your food on stranger?' But I no see am as waste. I see am as seed. And today, that seed don grow big. E don become restaurant. E don become scholarship for my pikin. E don become new life." The audience clapped. "So if there's anything I won't tell anybody here today," she said, looking around the room, "na say make you no stop to dey kind. Even when life hard, even when you no get plenty, just give wetin you fit give. Because you no know who you dey help, and you no know how far that small kindness go carry you." The applause was deafening. People stood up again. Some were crying, others were shouting, "Amen!" Adana looked at Obina and said, "Thank you, sir. You changed my life. But you also teach me say kindness dey pay. Maybe no be today, maybe no be tomorrow, but one day, it go surely pay." Obina smiled and hugged her. The cameras flashed. The crowd cheered. After the event, Adana became even more famous. Her story spread across Nigeria and even beyond. People from other countries heard about her. Some reached out to partner with her. Others just wanted to hear her speak. But despite all the attention, Adana remained grounded. She still visited her original restaurant every single day. She still checked on the free meal table. She still talked to customers. She still cooked sometimes, just to make sure the food tasted right. One day, a young woman came to the restaurant. She looked tired and desperate. Her clothes were worn. Her hair was rough. She carried a small baby on her back. She walked straight to the free meal table and sat down without saying a word. Adana noticed her from across the room. She walked over with a plate of food and placed it in front of the woman. "Eat, my sister. You're welcome here." The woman looked up at Adana with tears in her eyes. "Thank you, ma." As Adana turned to walk away, the woman called out, "Ma, please, can I ask you something?" Adana turned back. "Yes? How did you do it? How did you survive when life was hard?" Adana smiled softly. She pulled out a chair and sat down beside the woman. "I survived by not losing my heart," she said. "I was poor, I was suffering, but I never stopped caring about other people. And somehow, that kindness came back to me." The woman nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. My sister, Adana continued, I don't know what you're going through, but I want you to know that this is not the end. Keep your heart clean, keep being kind, and one day your story will change too. The woman wiped her face. Thank you, ma. God bless you. Adana stood up. Before you leave today, come and see me at my office. Let me see how I can help you start something small. The woman's eyes widened. Ma, you serious? Adana smiled. Very serious. Somebody helped me when I had nothing. Now it's my turn to help others. 5 years after that first plate of rice, Adana had become one of the most respected businesswomen in Nigeria. She had 10 restaurant branches, she had a catering company, she had trained over 200 young people in cooking and restaurant management, and she had helped more than 50 struggling women start their own small businesses. But every single morning, before she started her day, she would kneel down in her sitting room and pray. She would thank God for bringing Obina into her life. She would thank God for using her kindness as a seed. And she would ask God to never let her forget where she came from. Obina became more than a benefactor. He became like a father to her and her children. He attended Chima's university graduation. He was there when Amarachi won a scholarship to study abroad. He was there for every important moment in their lives. One day, during a quiet conversation, Adana asked him, Sir, why did you really choose me? Out of all the people you met during those 3 months, why me? Obina thought for a moment, then smiled. Because you didn't just see a hungry man, you saw a human being. And that, Adana, is the rarest thing in this world. She nodded, understanding. Most people, he continued, helped me because they thought it would bring them blessings. They prayed over me, they preached to me, they took pictures. But you just gave. No conditions, no expectations. Just pure kindness. And that's why I chose you. Tears filled her eyes again. Even after all these years, his words still moved her. Sir, I will never forget what you did for me. Never. He shook his head. No, Adana, I will never forget what you did for me. You gave me back my faith in humanity. This is not just a story about a rich man testing people. This is a story about the power of kindness. About how one simple act of mercy can change everything. Adana didn't know she was feeding a billionaire. She didn't know her life was about to change. She just knew that someone was hungry and she had food. That was enough. And that's the lesson. You don't need to know who someone is before you help them. You don't need to know what you will get in return. You just need to listen to your heart and do what's right. Adana was struggling. She was poor. She was suffering. But she still found space in her heart to care about someone else. And that space became the door through which her blessing entered. So many times we walk past people who need help. We ignore them because we're busy. We ignore them because we're struggling too. We ignore them because we think they might be fake or dangerous. But what if that person is your breakthrough in disguise? What if that one act of kindness is the key that unlocks your destiny? Adana's life didn't change because she was lucky. It changed because she chose compassion over comfort. She chose kindness over selfishness. She chose to give even when she had almost nothing left to give. And the beautiful truth is that we all have that choice. Every single day, life gives us opportunities to be kind, to help someone, to give something, to show mercy. What will you do with those opportunities? Because the beggar you ignore today might have been your angel. The hungry person you walk past might have been your test. The stranger you refuse to help might have been the one sent to change your life. Adana learned this lesson and it transformed everything for her. Not just her bank account, but her heart, her purpose, her legacy. Now she spends her days helping others the way she was helped. She feeds the hungry. She trains the jobless. She lifts the fallen. Because she understands that kindness is not just something you do. It's who you become. And when you become kindness, the whole world opens up for you. So the next time you see someone in need, don't ask yourself what you'll get in return. Don't wonder if they deserve it. Don't worry about what people will say. Just help. Because that simple act might be the very thing that changes both their life and yours forever. If this touched you, click that next video right there.